Lionel Richie and Ava Duvenay have in common? Find out next on the Talk Back Thursday with Camille and Jay Bailey when we host Angelo Ellerbee. Find out more soon. Can't wait for you to meet him. I do this every Hi everyone, welcome to Talkback Thursday with Camille today only. Jay Bailey will be back next week, so just wait for us to be together again next week. I can't wait, but today, as you already heard, I am so excited to have Mr. PR King himself, Angelo Ellerbee, as my guest. I can't wait for you guys to meet him. Let's just go ahead and get this started because I can't wait to learn everything he has to offer, especially considering your long, amazing roster. Thank you so much for joining me today, Angelo Ellerbee. It's so nice to meet you and to have you here in person. Well,
thank you so very much. Thank you very, very much. And it's all my pleasure. And thank you for this invitation. I hope that it's going to benefit your listeners.
Oh, I know it will. Already, I have to say off tops, I was doing my research and I wore black just for you because your candles are black. You like to promote black being a good thing. And then I get you on and you're wearing all white. I was like, oh, he likes to wear black. Quickly change clothes.
Thank you.
No, it's no problem at all. But I loved your whole explanation for why you wear or why you your candles that you did make them black. So we'll get to that later on because at first we got to start with your long career and entertainment. And how did you get started working in entertainment? Like what was the first thing you started doing?
I'm going to be so very honest with you. My career began as a fluke with regards to doing anything in the performing arts. Why I had a desire to want to enter into it, I had to pick and choose, or I wanted to pick and choose and didn't really know it. So about maybe 7 or 8 years old, my oldest sister used to model for Ebony Fashion Fair. And that was a traveling fashion show. And it would go from city to city to country, and it would show those haute couture designers' collections. And she received so much of attention with my family and within the community. I always applauded her efforts and very much supported it. As time went on and I got older, I got the fashion, the push, if you will. I found that it was easy for me at that time, at being 5, 6, 7 years old, to do those local things within my community. Mm-hmm. And then I started to get into the performing arts. And I said that these two would mesh somewhere down the line. And so I came from a very hard-nosed driving mother who believed very much in the education and the preparation, if you will, to her children, her 6 children, about survival. Mm-hmm. And at no point has my career ever been a silver spoon gift. She wanted you to work for it, and once you worked for it and you begin to accomplish it, then she would support it. So I went on and I did these little things in New Jersey. I grew up, I call it the greatest city in the world, which is Newark, New Jersey. It was very important in my life. Yeah. I began to do things within the community, fashion shows, local fashion shows, and that kind of thing there. And then as I grew older, I started to sponsor my own fashion shows. About maybe 15, 16 years old, started out at a local club, about 500 people, local designers that I was designing, and it snowballed into a fashion extravaganza, if you will, each and every single year. So one year in particular, my city was starving for, or very deprived about the culture. We came from no culture. This was an urban city where it was very deprived. Mm-hmm. My mission was really to educate, stimulate, and motivate them to the awareness of what the other side of the world and how the other side of the world existed. Mm-hmm. I brought in Carmen de Lavalon for dance, Joffrey Holder, the Alvin Ailey troupe, Iman, Beverly Johnson, Peggy Dillard, uh, and we
I
had
just have like
an
visuals of
theater.
Versailles when you
Yeah,
say
we had
Family Dillard. Yeah.
a theater of 3,000 people.
At Cleveland.
And people would come around to my shows each and every single year from
Mhm.
all around the country.
Yeah.
And at one particular show, there was a young lady in the audience. Her name was Camille Ntume. I did not know who a Camille Ntume was, or neither did I know who her husband was, which was James Ntume, the two-time Grammy Award winner. And she said to me, she says, Angelo, would you consider to style my husband's album covers? And I said, oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't know who her husband was. He only had the biggest record in the country at that time, which was Juicy Fruit. But I didn't know at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happens is that we became friends. And then becoming friends, she was a designer. She delivered leather and suede pieces. And I would teach her and connect her to what she needed to do. And then one day her husband came to me and said, if you can do all these things for Camille, why don't you manage me? And I said, manage you? I don't know nothing about the music industry. He says, well, I think it's now time for you to learn. And thus, he would send me over to Sony because he was signed to Sony. And I would go over each and every single day. And these people would call him and say, you sure this is the guy you want to be your manager? Because I was just like totally net, had absolutely not a clue. And thus,
Yeah.
I would come and sit in his yellow room every time I went to these meetings. And he would ask me questions. I was drilled. This is
Yeah.
the best. And I think that's why I am like I am today, because he would drill you,
Mhm.
teach you, educate you, and show you what survival was, and
Mhm.
particularly in that market. Thus, finally, one of the people called him and said, I think he has it in Tume. So I went on to manage in Tume, his production company, Tuatha, and all the things that he was lying to. And then I started to, somebody called him Tume. It was on the first motion picture that Oprah Winfrey ever did, which was called The Native Son. Oprah Winfrey starred in this film, and then Tume did the soundtrack for the movie. So he said, well, if I'm doing the soundtrack, you have to go find me a publicist. And I said, well, back then it wasn't no Google. It was like you had to look up what the hell is a publicist. And he said, no, you're going to do it.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. I went on board 200 newspapers and I took all the bylines. And from the bylines, I started calling people up. I wrote up my press release and the whole other bit. Thus, Double Exposure was born. Double Exposure was born in the corners of my mother's basement in Newark, New Jersey. My
Wow.
mother was about, she was just totally no nonsense. If
Yeah.
this is what you wanted to do, then do it, but I'm not going to help you do it. I went into the garage and I got her old dining room table, called up the telephone company and got a teen line and began to create what was Double Exposure.
Now,
So
wait,
I
how
think what it's
old were
all
you about
about
this
to
time?
me is
Yeah.
it's about stimulating yourself, educating yourself to things that you don't know about, that you don't know everything, and you need to try to learn everything, and
Mhm.
that you should not consciously ever worry about going into business with money. Everybody wants to have, the banks are not going to give you any money. I mean, I'm 17, 18 years old. This one is not going to give you no money because there's a chance. But when you fall romantically in love with who you are, and
Mhm.
you have the backbone and the guidance of support from your mom, you think that you can go and conquer the world. And thus, that's what I began to do. I started out in club music, so I did the Jocelyn Browns, the Sybil's, the CC Penningtons, the CC Rogers, and New Jersey was known for club music.
Yeah.
And
House
so
music. Yeah.
I was in the center of club music, and I used to go around and knock on doors for all these club artists and say, let me do this for you, do that for you, do that. Well, they knew of my work as a designer and as a promoter, so they're interested in me.
Yeah.
And so I went to with this group named Blaze. I created their look, their style, their image, because now I have the influence of fashion. I now have the influence of what would be publicity. And I was a stylist. I styled for a lot of the major magazines. So I
Mhm.
put all that into one. And
Mhm.
that's why I started to call it double exposure, dropping those E's and adding those X's because It had a sense of pride and dignity for me because I was following in pursuit of Malcolm X with those X's. And so with that, I mean, everything else just became a natural growth. And I went to work in a record company. I worked at Island as a senior director and became a vice president. I had to be about 25, 26 years old. I'm still now working and running my company from my mom's basement with one person there while I'm working. And I would do all of what we needed to do. And thus, one day I'm walking down the street on 7th Avenue, and I looked up and I saw this unoccupied office space, but it was on 7th Avenue. And I knew because of my pigmentation, if I walked up in there, it wasn't going to happen. So I called my Italian lawyer. The building was owned by Italians. And I told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to see the place, but I would not physically go inside. So would you take pictures for me? And he did. My birth name is Angelo Antonio Ellerbee. So I said, but don't give them no Ellerbee. Just give them Angelo Antonio. Came out, looked at the pictures. I said, it's fabulous. Let's do it. I have no money. I am not a dime. I didn't have one red penny, but I had this, and I had
You had heart, yeah.
and I had God, and I had my mother.
Oh wait, and you had the sense of success, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? You have to smell it, then you have to embrace it, and then you have to do it. Your only success isn't here. Success is not physical and tangible. Success is in the mind. I can never define what success means because I think that it's all in you, how you choose to define what success is. But I'm giving you this road of Angelo Ellerbee. But I want you also to understand that there was a whole lot of blocks in the road. The first and the foremost, I want people to understand that I'm gay. And being gay and being Black was, it wasn't happening. I would go into places or I would go into meetings and they would say, oh, you speak so well. And I would look and I say, oh, yeah, and you do too. Because I understood what they were saying. I didn't get jobs because I was gay. And I would hear it. If he wasn't, I would hire him. I went through that. And still to this day, I go through that. But it's real. And I want people to understand there's a real side of acceptance. And I always told them, I said, if you keep your eyes out of my bedroom and put them in the boardroom, you'll have somebody genius.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, I look, at the end of the day, for me, it's about the work ethic. I had 18 people who worked for me on 7th Avenue, and I trained each and every single one of them. I took no nonsense, and I'm not apologetic about what I did. I was not going back to no basement in my mother's house in New Jersey. I was on 7th Avenue, New York City, the only Black PR company that was on there. And I'm not trying to boast this.
No, it's a big deal.
Everyone, what the deal was. It was not easy. It was very hard. But when you have it in your mind as to claiming your victory and never, ever, ever, ever let anyone block your blessings, you can do what you want to do. Don't sit up and make excuses. This world is what this world is, but you choose to stand on your solid grounds to make the difference. You can make a change. And I don't tell people that I'm gay because I tell people that I'm gay because we're living in a society where racism and prejudice and all these things prevent growth. I say it because I want young people who are gay out here challenged with their sexuality, challenged with who they want to be and trying to get a job and trying to think big and somebody's smacking them down. And I'm saying you must encourage yourself to love yourself, to fall in love with yourself. I don't need nobody else to marry me, fall in love. I got enough of that for me. And so when you have those clear ideas of what life is really all about for you, you move on and you surge on. And nobody should block your blessings.
No, it's a
And
very
so
valid point. Yeah.
on that whole thing of the Seventh Avenue side, I have just been so blessed. I did major motion pictures uh, with DMX. I managed DMX for 5 years. I was
No,
his
wait, I
publicist
want to
for
ask a
2
couple of
years.
questions about that.
Sure.
Now, with you being gay, Black man, working in the music industry, and I'm assuming around the 80s, 90s with DMX, what was that like for you? Even because, I mean, the hip hop is not
Sure.
known
Let
for
me tell
being
you
the
something.
most encouraging or supportive of
I'm
the
going
gay
to be
community.
so very, very honest with you. I was so open with anyone that came to my office.
Mm-hmm.
And I would simply say, I'm gay.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you came in is the way you can go out. I really couldn't give a good damn.
Okay.
If you choose to not deal with me, but I'm not going to sit up here and allow people to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you. Hip hop is homophobic as all hell. But I
Homophobic,
surely didn't walk
misogynistic.
around with a
Yeah.
flag on my head saying this is what my sexuality is. I
Mm-hmm.
look, I'm a person. Life is nothing but a stage. We're all merely actors and actresses. If you know your script, read your script, believe your script, and keep moving with it. And Earl and I would have problems, and he would say, "Why are you wearing those kind of sandals around me?" And I would say, "What
Why
are
are you
you
looking
talking
at my
about?"
sandals?
I bought my sandals, my gay sandals, with your money. So, however you want to look at it, however you want to define it, you're not going to redefine who I am.
Mm.
And what you need to do is, as I said to him, from day one, you know what you brought. There's no returns. We're not going to, you can't go with this ain't Macy's.
Right.
You can't go into Macy's or Saks and try to return me. It's a sticker on my forehead that says no refunds.
Mm-mm.
And so the
As is,
reality
yeah.
for me, I understand where that community is. I do understand where they're at, but I also understand the times and acceptance is important.
Very important.
Please do not, please do not let anyone deter you from what your beliefs are. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I tell you that loving yourself and falling romantically in love with you is a wonderful thing. And you can't put yourself around these young kids want to put themselves around these people for acceptance.
Yeah.
It's okay to be uh, not so ordinary. It's okay to be alone. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay for all of that because you get time to know who you are and have an appreciation for what life is.
Yeah.
My mom was so incredibly wonderful to me because she didn't pull strings. I told her when I was 18 years old I wanted to go to Paris, France. And she looked at me and she said, "Boy, you have lost your mind." And then she says, "Well, how are you going to get there?" I said, "I'm going to hustle the money." She said, "Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go over there and don't have a way to get back, don't call me." Right? I said, "Okay, Mom."
Yeah, yeah.
I lived in Paris. First of all, I raised about $2,500. Back then, the tickets were probably $600. I lived in this raggedy hotel. And I didn't start modeling until 6 months in. So I was cooking fried chicken and collard greens on the Champs Elysees. Back in that day, in that time, it was
Wow.
easy for people to have soul food in Paris, and I did that for 6 months. But I would not, and it was not a pretty picture. I didn't speak the language at all,
Yeah, yeah.
but I knew there was a goal that I needed to meet, and I had to show my mother, I had to show my brothers and sisters that I can make a difference at my young age. I'm the youngest in my family. I came back. I did all the pret-a-porters. I did all the shows. After that, the photographer came in, gave me some new pictures to hold the bit. I did all the shows. I came back with enough money for my mother's house.
Now,
So
what did mom say? How did that feel? And what did your mom say?
she looked at me and she said, "You think you somebody? You ain't nobody."
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, but you know what? I understood my mother's language and her.
Mhm.
She smiles every time she would see me. Anytime she would see me on television, she would go to church with a new hat on. Just as somebody to say, "Oh, Sister Ellerbee, I saw your." My mother was the proudest of the proudest of the
Oh,
proudest.
I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about understanding your struggle.
Gosh, sorry, you're starting to make me tear up just hearing that because it
It,
reminds me of my grandmother. It's just so
it is
sweet.
also
Yeah.
about never letting anyone get in the way,
Mhm.
even through all the hardships, the name callings, the disappointments. Uh, Look, you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
Please those that you can please and keep it moving. It's not been easy. And I'm just saying for that young person who's out here, take time to listen, listen some more, comprehend, and don't think that you know everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
Everybody has something to contribute to your life. You can discard what you don't want to use, but keep what you think that should be applied to you. And you would walk around with a vault of knowledge when the timing is right. I tell people that it's not about winning every race. It's about staying in the race. Eventually, you have to win that race.
Mhm.
That same energy that it takes for you to give up is the same energy it takes for you to keep going. Why not keep going? Disappointment? No.
And you mentioned early in your career that you were really lucky in a way where you had someone that invested enough in you and saw enough in you that they suggested you going over to Sony and having them pretty much like a mentorship program. And that's something I think is the disconnect because there's so many elders that we could learn from and grow from and people who are legends that the younger generation is more or less is not interested in learning. Oh, that's the old way. We don't need to know how to do that. They were using Rolodexes. We got social media, whatever. But I feel like a lot of the different things when it comes to with art, history, whatever, once you know the basics, once you know the rules, like they don't really change. They just kind of evolve.
Let me
And
try
you
to
can't
tell
really
you.
get that unless you have someone like
Let me
yourself,
say
a
this to
mentor.
you. I understand the importance of staying relevant.
Mhm.
What I do is what I do. I have a team of young people around me that keeps me really grounded about social media and about all that. But there has to be a basis of your ingredients. So you cannot ever erase those things that are old. You want to take those things that are old that you look back, they call me the OG. Take those things that are old, apply it to what is new, and you have your formula for winning results. Don't close the door to ever wanting to learn. You got to learn how it started.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to learn where it went. And you have to learn if there's anyone still around doing that. So let me just apply it because that's just what I did. People say, "Oh, Angela, you still working?" I said, "I still get checks, so I'm still working." So
I
at the
know
end
that's
of the
right.
day, what I have done is taken all my young energy, applied it to my energy, and now these young people are going to walk away with a wealth of knowledge, understanding what it is. See, the sad story for me is when people tell me that they are a publicist, uh, I it is a craft.
Mhm.
It is not about going on social media and believing that you're doing publicity. And it is not about taking your client to every shindig underneath the sun. It's not about instant results. I like brewed coffee. I don't like instant coffee. I don't like nothing instant. I like what's going to take time. I like the development of an artist. I want artist development. It's going to take time for you to learn the culture, including what your thing is and what my thing is. You would have an artist, you could start to teach your artists the importance of conduct, how to conduct themselves.
Mhm.
People today is just like real loose. And I was reading an article a couple of days ago.
That's saying
Oh
it
no, it was
lightly.
on social media where the
Mhm.
guy says, "Do we still pull out a chair for a lady?" And I wrote back, "Hell yeah."
Get them, get them.
Mannerisms, that diction, that speech, that understanding of how you have to conduct yourself, how it's still important. I don't give a damn how old you think it is. We need to begin to incorporate it more. I have a sad story when it comes down to when we fought for our independence with record companies. The only misfortune in that for me is that these independents are not given a damn about the development of an artist.
It's
It's just
very
really important. It's just so important that we understand the importance of artist development. You can't, you first of all, before we get into your craft as a singer, as a rapper, I really, really seriously want you to understand what you got to do. Don't you want to know the business of music? Don't you want to learn what would be how to read a royalty statement? What the points are that you're going to receive?
Look,
Uh,
everybody's looking at Kanye's contract right now on Twitter, wondering like, what am I reading?
Listen, ownership and
Yeah.
having ownership. So we want to jump in and we want to get on Instagram. We want to shake a little tits and shake a little butts. Child, that's instant coffee. It's a million people shaking their little tits and shaking their little butts. Okay, so now what you need to do is remove all that silliness. Image is important. The stylization of an artist is important. Equally important is the artist knowing about the importance of them doing their business. If you don't know your business, then you're going to get screwed every time. And then you want to become accusatory and blame the manager that you did not thoroughly investigate and understand what his or her knowledge was to teach you and to guide you. Your team becomes important.
So
And if
important.
you're not selecting that team the way that that team's supposed to be selected, that's on you.
And I think a lot of times with artists, they feel the manager or agent that they're the ones in control, but it's really the artist. Like they work for you in some aspects too. Like you really need to
And in
know
all
what you're
aspects,
signing up to. Yeah, all aspects. Yeah, because
it's really sad because I don't believe that there's any stupid question when it comes down to a brand new recording artist. I just believe that each person should be examined like the FBI, like being an FBI agent. I want to know all your habits. I want to know what you do. I want to know how involved I should get with you. And before I get into an agreement with you, I want to have a courtship. Then I want to have an engagement. So that means you can go out and get work for me. I can see what your due diligence are. I will give you your percentage. Then I'm going to find out if I'm going to marry you. That's going to take a time because when you say marry, that's important. That marriage, that divorce, whatever you want to call it, it's going to go for the rest of your life. So you have to be very, very, very clear about who you partner with, who's a part of your team, how your team should treat you, and that you understand that everybody is working for you. So if you don't have it all up here, how are you going to guide the career? How are you going to guide these people that you're paying? And that's when you get over on them. And then the other side, there's so many sides to it. Drugs and sex and all of this stuff that comes in. You know what? We all know the difference in right and wrong. You know when it's wrong, you know you're going to get caught. So why do it? And then you're over and you're done with. Nobody wants to mess with you. So it's like a real serious business.
Right.
And it's a business that I want people to understand, particularly people who look like me, understand the white business of music. Because there's two distinct businesses. One is the white folks who get all the money and have all the money and teach you out of everything that you ever got. That's the business that you really don't need. And you need to know that, but you need to know the behind of how my publishing is working and what it. And then we have to talk about the importance of ownership.
Yeah, speak on
We
it.
need to own things. We need to own our own music. Don't be ambitious, be ambitious.
I
People
love
want
that.
it so quick and so fast. I don't want nothing fast. I want to smell the coffee. I want to smell the aroma of my success.
Yeah, enjoy the process of
And
it.
I don't want nobody else smelling it. I'm gonna smell it all myself. And then I'll make a distribution of the smell. But I got to know what I'm smelling and know what I'm selling. Those are key things. And I think we're so remiss in understanding. Look, I thought back in the early 90s that it was important for me to challenge myself. There were so many PR companies out here. What was going to make double exposure stand out? And I went back to my history books. And my music history books told me about Berry Gordy. Told me how his music was not being accepted in the mainstream arenas. What did this man do to make his music and make Diana Ross and the Supremes and Gladys Knight and the Temptations be who they were? He structured a program: diction, speech, mannerisms, clothes, dance, choreography, all of those things. So I said, I'm going to take a bite out of Berry Gordy. And I started my artist development program.
Okay.
Now, the New York Times called me the Charm School for Rappers.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I don't care what you call me, but you gave me a page and a half in the New York Times, which triggered Paramount buying my life story, gave me the associations of the Mary J. Bliges of the world and the Alicia Keys. But I used to sit back and actually they were electives, they were courses, they were electives, and you can elect what you want. And it was Jackie Reinhardt and Sean Puffy Combs who came to me on Mary. And they said, Angelo, let's just see how fierce you really are. And so Mary came to me. She was an hour late. And when you come an hour late to my office, you're not going to see me. I'm at the elevator. She said, I'm here to see Angelo. I said, oh, are you talking about Mr. Ellerbee? She said, yeah. I said, well, you're late, girl. I'm on my way downstairs to the Carnegie Deli. Let's try this again tomorrow. How you start is how you finish. The next day, she was an hour early.
There we go.
And we got into it for 24 weeks about diction and speech and mannerisms and how you talk and how you sit in the chair. And today, look at Mary J. Blige.
She's amazing.
It's not the brewed coffee. It's not that instant coffee.
Right.
It's that brewed coffee that finally hit. Oscar-nominated actress.
The Queen, right?
Yeah.
The Queen.
It goes on and on and on and on and on.
No, I love that you're speaking about artist development, because I think that's so important. I remember even with like athletes, they would make a point of making sure they knew how to conduct interviews. And there was one time I was watching, I can't remember his name but he works in hip hop. I think he's white. He could be Jewish descent. I'm not really sure. But he made a point of saying that he made sure his artists went out and did lots of interviews so they would know how to speak to people. And like that was a way to build fans, was engaging and having a personality that people wanted to listen to, root for, and be a part of their story. And I think that's one thing that's really kind of missing with today's artists, in a way where it's so much about what they're showing, what they're posting, what they're doing, and not so much who they are individually, because we're just seeing body parts and different things here and there, or their whatever rumors or this, like it's more a publicity game.
I don't know if you even call that publicity. That's just bad showmanship. I don't know. I think that we have to really get back to the fundamentals of caring, of sharing.
Somebody wants you.
Caring and cheering for our artists, caring and cheering for our artists, and really taking time out to mentor them. And particularly when we are in these independent labels and we are in these major labels, we cannot just pimp that artist for his or her talent. I believe that we must take that time to educate them and stimulate them and motivate them to the awareness of how they have to exist in this business. Now, somebody executive is going to say, I ain't got no time to do all of that. But you do have time to take that percentage and that point off that album. It's a part of your investment. So I really believe that we should challenge ourselves to begin to mentor all of our children. We should begin to mentor them in infancy. We should begin to teach them and educate them and give them good feelings about life so they'll know the difference in right and wrong. It takes a lot. It takes a whole lot to raise a child. And back in my days, it was good to know that I had brothers and sisters and people who cared about me, who really loved me and wanted the best things for me. And so my whole formula of winning is giving you that tough love. I'm never going to win a popularity contest. Trust me. But what you're going to get is you're going to get the kind of love that's going to mold you, shape you, and allow you to go out and get $1 million. That's what you're going to get.
Wow. Now, why do you say that about yourself? I mean, you seem so nice in here, like speaking with me, like everything. You seem to really want to inspire people inside. Why would you think that that's self-love?
Because as I said to you earlier, we're all actors and actresses.
Mm.
When I get in that room and I'm teaching you, and I have 18 and 19 employees, and I'm telling them, I'm not going back to no basement. Either you're going to do the job or you're not going to do the job. So I can't come out as this soft cake. I got to come out hard. I got to come out giving strong advice. I'm not nasty, but I want people to understand the importance of my trials, my tribulations, and that you're not going to have me at a disadvantage, at none of that. So if you're coming to work, if you're coming to learn, let's do that. Let's come to work. Let's come to learn. Let's come to be together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I always say that I'm not going to win a popularity contest because over the years I've been Angelo, and Angelo don't take no nonsense. I'm about my money. I'm about helping. I'm about guiding. I'm about mentoring. And if you don't want any of those things from me, then what's next? So if that's not a negative attitude, it's just a real one.
No, I see that. Now, you also wrote some books too. Now, are those books that you're an author as well, so you've written some books. What exactly can people expect from those? I know the sense of success was more or less learning how to feel to build yourself through the senses of success, not just one smell of success.
The book that's currently out now is The Sense of Success. Mm-hmm. I wrote the book because I thought that there were so many people that missed out on so much of their lives. They missed out on loving themselves and being with themselves and motivating themselves and giving themselves what they needed to have. So my regimen every morning is that I light candles throughout my apartment. I pray for 45 minutes to an hour. I praise God, I lift God, I thank God, I glorify God. I pray for people. I pray for everyone. I pray from the sick to the wounded, the physically handicapped, the mentally retarded, the homeless, the COVID victims. I pray for all of God's children because I understand what God has done for me. He's been good to Angelo. He's been good from this to this boy from Newark, New Jersey, born into a family where my mother had a 9th grade education, but I thought she had a degree in I thought she had a doctorate in common sense. I never knew it. So I come from humble beginnings. And it's just really important for me that I get to tell people what they have to do and what God has done for me. And so that's where that book came from. There's so many people who look at life as failure or that they have failed. That recording artists who want to become accusatory and blame that manager for their not being a success. And I said, well, you can't become accusatory. You have to blame yourself for your own mistakes because you allowed them to take charge. That was your career. Don't blame other people for your mistakes. Those were your mistakes. Now, what you can do because you're still living, God is still letting the blood run through your body. You're seeing, you're hearing. You can go out and you can do this again. It's never too late to begin all over again. Humpty Dumpty fell down and he got back up. I just think when you fall down, you need to understand why you fell down, how you're going to get back up, and how you're going to stay up. It's just logic to everything. And so this book is to give hope to people who've just given up. I just tell them the rituals of life, of loving yourself. I married Angelo at 18 years old. Yeah, and it sounds like maybe I'm a little stuck on Angelo, but no.
Well, you live with him 24/7. It's good to love yourself, right?
Yeah, I just think that it's very important that people, especially in these times, all the mental health and the things that people are going through, So if you wake up in the morning, and first, if you wake up in the morning and your feet hit the floor and the blood runs through your body that enables you to breathe, you need to give thanks and praise to the man that allows you to do that. And that was that book. The first book that I put out was called Ask Angelo. And what I really wanted people to get from the book is to understand my ingredients to all of my clients, from Dionne Warwick to Mary J. Blige to Michael Jackson. So I gave them some overall overviews of what each particular artist went through. And again, yeah, we talked about the artist development. We talked about Mary telling me that she didn't want to do this. We talked about all of those things. But then at the end of every chapter, we talked about the success of each one of them and how they got through these hurdles. So I just find books to be important because it can reach the masses. It tells your story. And at the end of the day, I think it's all about uplifting. I think it's about uplifting people.
I mean, so one of my audience members is a huge Michael Jackson fan as well. Who wouldn't be, honestly? But can you give us a little sneak peek of something we could read about maybe in your story?
People always have this picture of Michael as being this very quiet and very shy guy.
I heard he's not.
One time he called the office and the assistant wasn't there, so I answered the phone. So he says, real deep voice, can I speak to Angelo Ellerbee? And I looked at the phone. I said, who's calling him? It's Michael Jackson. So I thought it was somebody pulling my leg. So I said, oh, yeah, okay, Mr. Jackson, what do you want? What do you want? You want me to moonwalk for you? And he laughed so hard. He said, Angela, it's really Michael. And I felt like a fool. He laughed so hard. This man must have laughed for 20 minutes.
Oh, I love it.
You come out here and tell me that one more time. Yeah. He went to tell his vice president, Bob Jones, at that point. Bob said, Angelo, I have never seen Michael laugh so hard. So yeah, he was a wonderful, wonderful, kind, generous man. Most missed.
Of course. It seems like it was just yesterday. So and then with Mary J. Blige, because she's my birthday twin. And I thought I was going to meet her on Who's the Man, because she was supposed to play a character on Who's the Man, and my family, we worked on that. But one of the Full Force guys ended up doing it. I can't think of his name now, but apologies for that. But she was supposed to work on it, and I was all excited to finally meet somebody with the same birthday as me, because they used to, in the back of magazines, they would post who had birthdays, and she was always the only one. And like before her, David Bowie was kind of close, so I always kind of like both of them. I don't know. It was a very weird kid, but
wonderful, wonderful. When she was brought to me, it was a time in her life where she didn't really understand her life. All the things. See, the sad thing is about the music industry. I look at it very much like people were just pimping people. When you take an artist and you don't explain to he or she what could possibly happen and begin to prepare them for what may happen, it's to your misfortunes. When you don't tell them what to stay away from and what they should do and the whole other bit, it's a part of the elevation of the artist that we have to do. So when I got married, it was a trying times. But the first day, as I said to you, was a little rough. But then we felt romantically in love with one another. We shared. It was a time in my life where I raised all three of my nephews legally. So they're my sons. And so Mary, I think it was in the second week, Mary was sitting in the office. And of course, my staff knew not to interrupt me when I was in with the client. But when they did, I knew that there was something wrong. And I answered it. And so it was my mom. She says, I think you need to come home. And I said, well, Mom, I'm in the middle of a session. And she said, well, your son has been shot and he's dead. And so I didn't know. I didn't say anything to Mary. But she asked me, she said to me, I know you don't listen to your artist's music. I said, no, girl, I really don't. She said, but I want you to listen to this song. And she played it. If you can look into my eyes and see what I see. And I started crying. I cried. And she was like, Angela, what's wrong? What's wrong? Then she started crying. She started to tell me about her father and something. And she said, what is wrong? And I told her what was wrong. She said, okay, class over, go. And that meant the world.
Wait, you just found out your son had passed and you kept going through the meeting?
I had to.
See, that's work that's work ethic for you guys.
Yeah, I had to because my life is my life.
Mm,
People pay me a lot of money. Doesn't nobody care about my problems, my trials, or my tribulations.
mm,
I came to you for service. Give me the service.
mm,
And that's how I look at it.
mhm,
You know, even through my mom's death, it was real for me. You know, I had a business to run. My mom was sick. I went to the hospital every day. I did what I needed to do. Da 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 da. She died, and I went to her and I held her and I did all of what I needed to do. But guess what? 13 and 14 and 15 and 20 clients don't necessarily care about. Sure, they're going to give you your moment for to get. I had to keep it moving
mm,
because my mother would have wanted me to keep it moving,
right.
and I did. So it's been, it's been a elevator ride for me,
Mhm,
but I'm very thankful, and I'm very entrenched into uh, my life and the life that I give to so many others. It's
mhm,
important. You can't half step.
yeah. I have to ask you this because you mentioned the gun violence hitting so close to home. You mentioned being gay and working in hip hop and how that was. And I'm just curious for your standpoint, what do you think we need to do as far as media changing and music changing in a way that it's more inclusive, so it's more acceptable, and that the idea of using guns and killing each other, hurting each other, like we got to stop this. The violence is, I mean, the violence, the hating each other.
It seems to stem back 400 years,
Mm,
and I think what is taking place now needed to take place.
mhm,
I think that there's some cohesiveness in our people. We are standing and fighting what our aunts and uncles fought for in the 60s. So I understand the question, but I also understand the weather of the question. I understand for the first time in my eyes, I see young people standing up for what they know is right and what they know is wrong. And it's a collective thing. It's collective, and then enough is enough is enough. So I support what they're doing.
mhm.
And I think when you go to support what someone is doing in that magnitude, sure, there are going to be things that's going to happen. It is not always us that's doing it.
Right.
I do have a problem with black on black crime, but I also understand in this mental mind, where was it put? It was put a whole lot of places. I mean, when you don't know where you come from and nobody wants to teach you where you come from, then you're going to be where you at.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Think about it.
No,
It's just like no history, and now they're going to deprive us and don't want our history to go back into history books.
mhm.
We were part of the history, but we never learned the history. So I am saddened that what takes place in this day in this time, but I'm also feeling so good about the marches and people, the consistency
Mhm, mhm.
of young people fighting and fighting for what they know is right for their children. They're the ones that's going to lead this legacy. They're
Yeah.
the ones that's going to allow us to be lifted. And so that our children and our grandchildren won't have to live and be treated in the manner in which they are being treated.
I just feel like so much of it stems back also to entertainment in a way where not only in the movie side of things where they're only portraying, not only, but for a long time they were only portraying us in ways where we were thugs, we were maids, we were like not the main source of stories, we weren't the beauty, we weren't the love story, we weren't that. And then even with our children, uh, they weren't allowed to be kids because there weren't toys that looked like them, there weren't shows that looked like them, and even in their school books there was no one that looked like them. And now even when we're making things ourselves, we're promoting a kind of lifestyle that a lot of them can't afford. And even if they could afford, why are we promoting brands that don't support us back,
It's
that
all
most
in
of them
here.
can't afford? Like we need, like when you're
Exactly.
saying all of that with owning your own and ownership, but it's also about what are you putting out into the universe, the vibes that you're creating and the energy, those words that these little kids or adults are singing back to back about themselves that you're putting out there. It's becoming the words, they're like words have power. So they're having that same song stuck in their head or movie or whatever, that's what they want to be, or that's who they think they are. And that's even worse, how others think of us, whether we're getting with Black women, they're more sexually assaulted, they're more attacked, they're misogynistic. People don't believe it because, oh, well, you guys, that's the way you're always portrayed. That's how your Black men betray you. That's how they treat you. So I want to make sure that we address the fact that they have a place in that as well. And what can we as a collective? It's not because we can afford to buy everything. You know, like you have to.
I really think we're doing. I think straight across the board in whatever community or industry that it is, it's straight out across the board is racism. You know, and I think that the change is going to come. I think that we're in the process of change. We're not there. We would possibly get there if we keep the same vigor, keep communicating to one another, inclusion. And it's not just about people of color, Black and brown. I think it's for all people, that we all got to get on the same page. And we all have to be, and they must listen to us about how we feel. And there's some people we will change, and then there's some people that we won't. But we need to get into those, we need to get into them, the Washington, D.C., into that White House, and let that change be what it needs to be as well.
Get out to vote, people, or get your mail-in absentee ballots. Order them now. Don't wait.
No, we need to get buses, trains, planes, go by them churches, pick them up, have some
plexiglass.
Whatever you need to do to get them out there. Whatever we need to do, it's just got to be, it will change. I'm a believer that it will change slowly. I hope in my time that I can see some of the change that will take place, but slowly. And I think it's all about a conditioning, all about a conditioning. It started, where do we come from? Why we're here and we built it and we owned it and we created it, but we didn't know that. So we did whatever we had to do in order to survive and to support our families. We were hosed down with water hose and dogs on my grandmother's leg and all of that. We didn't belong. We just didn't register into today's society. But now it took someone dying. It took someone dying. It took a pandemic for people to be home to see it. To say how awful.
Yeah. To see our humanity. Yeah.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's how I see it.
Now, what do you have plans for the future? What do you see next for Mr. Angelo?
Well, I am working on another book. 20th Century Fox has brushed off my old contract, and so we're now talking about my life story all over again. And then I'm still a publicist. I'm still a manager. I'm still doing what I'm doing. But I'm busier more now than I ever have been. I'm so thankful. I'm just so very thankful. Yeah. I'm thankful for people like you who have this kind of podcast that will educate and motivate people and bring newness and culture and film and all those things that matter that we've been cheated out of. Not just talking about the next big hit, but you're talking about things of substance. So I hope people like you keep growing and keep energizing other people to do what you do. But you're the original in doing what you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Say what?
Blessings to your dad.
Oh, thank you.
I watched the show with you and your dad on it. You're such a proud daughter. And it's lovely to see that.
No, I mean, so he was, well, if you watch the show, you already know that freedom writer and producer. So it was always instilled in us. And even my mom's on here as well. She's the artist behind all my artwork and earrings. So I'm a very proud daughter of both of my parents, but it was always drilled into me the importance of giving back, making sure that you questioned authority. You just didn't make assumptions about how things were like going about, because my dad fought for voting rights down here. And a lot of times people forget that it's not that many generations ago that our parents didn't have those rights. They weren't able to go to college. Well, at least down in the South, at least they weren't able to go to college. They weren't able to become doctors. There were so many things they weren't able to do. And so like being in a position where I'm able to do this, why wouldn't I? Or like soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, I have no limitations, like I'll look just like all the other TV shows as far as being at home. And I knew that I had to take a chance. So if somebody says no, I just move on to the next person. And I was very grateful and lucky for the opportunity. And I wanted, originally, I really wanted to bring more film opportunities to North Carolina because it was really great. But then the more I got involved here, they were more interested in bringing outside projects than supporting people who already lived here. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do me, have fun, speak to the kind of people I enjoy and would learn from, and hopefully inspire other people to just be interested in supporting the arts, getting in the arts, understanding why it needs to stay in schools, whether it was speaking with musicians, artists, whoever, like the importance of a lot of times their first time exposure to certain things like that was in school or was in church. So just giving people those other outlets to learn where they can find out the skills that they are dreaming about.
How much of a vessel you are?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry?
You see how much of a vessel you are?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
That's doing his work. Yeah. While you're reaching your own goals, you're sharing what he wants you to share. And that's a wonderful give back. Well, sometimes you have to stop and say, this is not just for me, this is for everybody.
Yeah.
No. I'm not just a benefactor, this is for everybody. All of the people who listen and watch you, your mother and father would have to be proud because they taught you, they geared you, and look, everything is one day at a time, sweet Jesus. It's just not when you want it. It ain't a cup of instant coffee. You're going to always like brewed coffee. It's worth waiting for.
I could not agree more, because I think of it, when you said that earlier, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like French press coffee. I don't know. Exactly. Because on Throwback Thursdays, I have to admit, I get real into my feelings sometimes when I see some of my model friends, and I'm like, wait, they were doing all of that work, and I was doing it, because the diversity factor, you're like, wait, why did I get sent to Europe or Japan? And then when you were saying earlier, it's not my fault. I mean, it's not my agent's fault. It's my fault for not being more involved in managing. I just. Yep.
I tell these artists why you will have your managers and you'll have your agents. If you're not involved, you don't know what's going on. I say pick up the phone and have a conversation once the person that I've been booked. Oh, thank you so very much for booking me. The agent may look at you like you got 5 heads, but it's okay, because I'm going to make sure you ain't getting no money underneath the table. You're going to take your percentage. You're going to do the way it's supposed to be done. So it's just being a follow-through person. And I know people may be listening to this and watching this and saying, why is he saying that? Because the truth is not on strike. It's what goes on. And if you're not involved in your career and you think that somebody is overseeing and supervising and really managing you, hello, you're not clued in.
It's a numbers game.
Everybody has their little ways of doing what they have to do. But I just believe that an artist really has to take some involvement in their career on the administrative side, on the business side of knowing what's going on. Mm-hmm. Or you will sell all these records, and at the end of the day, you'll be sitting once it's over, it's over. And then you'll be saying, what happened? Where's my money? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And everybody's gone. Yeah. They're gone and they're living in their multiple homes, and you're sitting back saying, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so true. Well, I don't want to hold you because I know you are a busy man, and the whole time your phone was ready to go. People need to get Mr. Ellerbee before the weekend, because I know it's Friday's Eve. So I just can't thank you enough. Oh, we didn't even talk about your magazine.
Oh my gosh.
You have to come back. So you Sapphire Emerald. Yeah. Can you?
I'm on the cover this month of Sapphire Emerald. I love and adore the editor-in-chief. She called me and asked me if I would consider to do the cover of her magazine. And I said, of course I would.
Yeah.
And I did. And I'm loving all the attention that the cover is getting. She did a wonderful job of laying it out and making me look really good. So
I love the colors that she
salutations to
used
her.
behind you as well. It really looked great.
Yeah,
Well,
it does, doesn't it? I was very impressed with it.
yeah, no, it
I
went
just
great.
hope that my conversation with you today benefits your viewers, your listeners. I hope that they walk away with something of some kind of substance that I was able to convey to them. I really enjoy lighting fires where there can be a very dark side of someone's life. I just believe that's a part of my work as well, is to uplift people and to energize people and to love people. And that's what this conversation was to be today.
I thank you so much for, again, let everybody know where they can reach out to you or apply to work for you or get.
Okay, so they can always go to my site, which is dxxnyc.com. So that's D as in David, XX is in X-ray twice, nyc.com.
Okay, and I'll definitely have, I think I have it already in the comments section above or as well. So if not, I'll definitely post it next so
Thank
they
you,
can
darling.
find it and click the link very easily. So thank you again,
It
Mr.
was all my pleasure.
Angelo Ellerbee. I really enjoyed
I
every.
enjoyed you.
I'm
Thank
like,
you
oh,
so
I
much,
didn't get to talk
darling.
about Dionne Warwick or Ava DuVernay or Lionel Richie. You'll definitely have to come back because you have.
Absolutely. Anytime you like, I would be more than willing.
Watch what you say because I will.
Hey, I'm here for
Hello,
you.
it's me. You're asking for. No, I'm
And you can always call me. Call me as direct as you like.
You heard it here.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Angelo. Don't be surprised when I call.
I want you to call, and you tell Miss Yolanda to give you that number so that you can call.
Oh, thank you. You hear that, Yolanda?
Yeah, so get that number from her.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. And you are
Thank you, darling.
amazing. Thank you
You
again.
too.
It's
Give
a,
your dad a handshake for me.
I definitely will. I definitely
Thank you so much.
will. All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
What a great interview. I absolutely adored him. I hope you did as well. I'll definitely post his website for you later on, just in case it's not on my Facebook page. If it's not, it'll be up there. So also he has an Instagram page. You can check over there as well. I like tagged everyone that's associated with him pretty much on it. So just tune in over there. And thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends that may also need to learn a little bit about artist preparation, how to get out there and maybe check out some of his books on Amazon. I was going to post a link, but then realized there was only one left. So there's a race to Amazon. See who gets there first. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's you. All right. Well, thanks again. Actually, I shouldn't do that. I'll give you 10 minutes to catch up because there is only one left. At least that's what Amazon said. So thank you guys again for tuning in. I will be back next week with Jay Bailey next Thursday. So tune in then. We may have a guest. It may just be the two of us just talking about everything that's happened in the couple of weeks that she's been gone and all her new exciting news as well. And I'll talk to you guys then. So next Thursday, 6 o'clock, right here on Throwback Thursday. Can't wait to see you guys then. And make sure you subscribe, like, share, hang out at my podcast too. Everywhere that podcasts are, we are there too. All right. Well, you have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend and take care of each other. Stay well. Stay masked up. Please, like, just do it. And find a way to vote one way or the other, whether it's absentee or if you feel safe enough to go to your poll place, please go out. Please do it. Make that difference. Make that change. And I'll see you again next Thursday. Have a great day. Oops, wrong button. So